how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are
now go to that man. Flag of Nigeria, please publish it. Flag of Nigeria 1914 to 1960. Now listen very carefully, please. And I'm going to read it for all of you so you can follow it very carefully. First of all, once you see this very flag that Britain designed, you ask yourself, what is the style? Go to that map. Flag of Nigeria, please publish it. Flag of Nigeria 1914 to 1960. Now listen very carefully, please. And I'm going to read it for all of you so you can follow it very carefully. First of all, once you see this very flag that Britain designed, you ask yourself, what is the Star of David doing on a flag of the people that actually hate Jews? Britain. Britain hated Jews so much that they never wanted Israel to be free. Britain fought on the side of Jordan to destroy Israel in 1948. Some of you don't know that. I'm telling you core history tonight. That the history of British suppression of the people of the book did not start today. Britain were bombed out of Israel. The Israelis used bombs to drive them away. Britain went Britain had what was called the Palestine Mandate. Their job was to stop the creation of Israel. Did you know that? Some of you don't read, you don't research. It was the job of Britain. The same mandate that Satan gave to Britain in Biafra, Satan gave Britain the same mandate in Israel. Satan brought Britain and said to Britain, you must sit here, you must give this land to Arabs. Are you aware of that? So some of you don't know. But I will teach you this evening. Now we read. The flag of Nigeria between 1914 and 1960 was a British blue ensign. British designed it with a green star of David. Green to signify the fertile lands of Biafra. Now listen, I will repeat. The flag of Nigeria between 1914 and 1960 was a British blue ensign with a green star of David. Now, is Britain a Jewish state? Now, I'm just asking the idiots. Is Britain a Jewish state? If the answer is no, then ask yourself, what are British people? What I have given people asking foolish questions. Your number one assignment is, I'm trying to weave a web here for you. Your number one assignment is to perform a pilgrimage. Please go to Nsude, go to Udi, and go and look at the pyramids that our ancestors built. And then ask yourself, where? I ask you again, where do you have such pyramids? It's in Egypt. So now, the next question is, did the Egyptians come to Enugu State to come and build pyramid? Then now you are going to answer that question, not me. That's number one. I want to establish what I call biblical link between Biafra and Israel. Biblical, that your two naked eyes can see. Although some of you are with your foolish brain cannot reason, at least your two eyes can see. Go to Enugu, you will see it. That was part of the reason why Enugu was chosen. The other one I will not tell you, because you cannot comprehend it. You can't understand it. Ask yourself, what is the Star of David doing? Are British people, are they Jewish? Are they from Israel? But Britain put this very star there. Where did you find the star? That is a very simple question. Britain, where did you get this Star of David that you put on this Nigerian flag? Mind you that Nigeria contains the south and the north, encompassing the whole of Biafra. Now listen very carefully. It was later changed to St. Edward's Canadian with the white word Nigeria under it as a red disc. It was adopted by the colony and protectorate of Nigeria following the amalgamation of the South and the Northern Protectorate. Are you following very carefully? The colonial flag of the zoo was adopted in 1914 following the amalgamation of Southern and Northern Nigeria. It was first suggested by the first Governor General of Nigeria, Sir Frederick Lugard. So Lugard knew where we came from, but they said we have no history. And please, tonight you must pay attention. Listen, open your ears and listen. Write anything that is confusing, you write it down. Go back later on to go and interrogate it. You'll find the answers to it. It was adopted by the colonies. Lugard started the whole thing. They asked Lugard, why did you do this? He said it's a symbol of the unification of Nigeria because of the seal of Solomon, which was associated with the native Igbo Jews. Lugard said, Igbo Jews, Lugard. Mama said, I pledge to Nigeria my country. I'm a proud Nigerian. The person that created you a nigger said the reason why I am putting the seal of Solomon or Star of David as they call it on this flag here of British colonial Nigeria is because this particular star, according to a white man before 1914, that unveiled in 1914, when some of you have not been born, some of you, even the Alamajiri that impregnated some of you, your mothers, during the war, have not been born by them. Are you listening very carefully? I want to open your skull so you can reason. Because when it comes to education and research, I don't think that apart from Princeton Library in the USA, I don't think anybody can compete with us. To be honest with you, I don't think they can. I'm not being arrogant. I don't think you can. Some of you are not educated enough to stand and to debate. You're not learned. And we're not learned. How can you reason properly? I hope you're following me. Ask yourself this question: why would a white man who is not Jewish, a white man who is not circumcised, what is he doing with the Star of David? And some of you are so foolish. You don't know that this very Igbo Jewish Star of David on the flag was done in 1914. Israel only adopted this Star of David in 1948. Are some of you brainy? 1914, 1948, which one is older? Who is copying who?
The army emblem of Nigeria is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner.
And his name is Mr. Chukwudum Ikazo. Mr. Chukwudum Ikazo is a retired police officer, and he authored a book called Nigeria 1966, The Turning Point. Chukwudum, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
I'm delighted to have you today. Like I said, the topic of the program today is to do with an insight into the 1966 coup, the January 15th, 1966 coup, from an insider's perspective. I mean, there's been so many various accounts of what happened. There's, like they say in war, in history, you have the perspective of the victor, you have the perspective of the vanquished. I'll use those words because that's what, the words that were used. But we'd like to get an insight from a legend who participated in that war, the war that happened subsequently, and also the legend who was, actually the only living legend who participated in that coup, which, to some accounts people say that led to what we have today in Nigeria. So, Colonel, I'd like you to introduce to Nigerians a bit about yourself and tell Nigerians your experience generally, just like a mini biography, but from your experience from childhood to your educational background and right up to where you are today. So,
thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel Nwobosi Obosi. I served in the military and I retired as a colonel. Right now, I can tell you about my childhood days, but briefly.
yes, sir.
I was born January 21st, 1939, in Port Harcourt. Of course, those days, when the civil servants, and my father was a male nurse, he ended up retired as a superintendent of nursing, which was a good post at the time. But during his sojourn, he went on a lot of transfers.
Okay.
He took me to when I was still a child and not old enough to go to school. He took me to Maiduguri.
Okay.
That was an experience.
And that's in the northern part of Nigeria.
Northernmost part of Nigeria. Okay. And then when I was old enough to enroll in a school, they brought me back to the then south,
Okay.
which later became the southeast,
Okay.
and remained school. And that was on and on and on. I believe I'll stop so, because if I carry on, I'll take
yes.
all the time.
Okay, thank you for that.
Ask me the next question.
And like we talked about, the topic of the discussion is about the 1966 coup, February 15th. I'd like to get your account of, an insider's perspective, because like I said in the beginning, there's been so many mysteries and lies. Like I watched your earlier, that's been in social media, your discussion about, about what happened. There's been so many misconceptions about what happened. There's been so many people putting their own twist to what happened. And you told us you're 80 years old now, that you don't have to lie anymore. So we'd like to know, from your perspective, what led up to the coup. Why was there a reason to carry out such a coup, and what was the thinking at the time? That made you young officers. Most of you were very young. You were 27 at the time, weren't you?
No,
What led up to the coup, and give us that insight.
What happened was that as a young officer, just trained from the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, where we were taught all the principles of how a military officer should behave and support the government of the day, not really participate. We came back home and set up units. I particularly was lucky because at that time Nigeria had no artillery unit.
Okay.
So we set up with some officers from, that was Major Madebo at the time. There was Abakari, captain.
Okay.
There was my coursemate, Pat Hanekwe. We all got together in Kaduna. We got soldiers from the depot, and we started teaching them how to set up. We started setting up the artillery.
Okay, well, you were mostly trained from Sandhurst, all of you that came back.
Madebo was trained at Sandhurst.
Okay.
Abakari was not trained at Sandhurst. He was trained at Mons of Secondary School in Aldershot at the time.
Okay.
Pat Hanekwe and myself were trained at Sandhurst. And later on, officers like Damkat Bali, who was our junior, he was also trained at Sandhurst, and Abdul Waya. So that was enough. We set up the first unit in Kaduna, and then there was need to set up the second unit in the west,
and
that was Abeokuta, because there was a unit there, Rocky's squadron, and it fell on me, and I thought that was a very, very good opportunity for me to show myself, because those days you wanted to do something so that you can carry your head high, be broad. So I went with Domka Bali as my second in command. We got to Abeokuta with some men and set up the second artillery unit. This was ongoing, but at the same time, there were crises in Nigeria. Crisis with the Yorubas at war with each other.
Was it political crisis?
It was political crisis, because Awolowo had left the West for the federal constituency, and he handed over to Akintola, who was one of his lieutenants. But it turned out that Akintola was not doing according to the boss. There were a number of problems around the whole place, and what we saw at the time was that Akintola instead aligned himself with the Swadowna of Sokoto, who was the supreme leader in the north. And even though there were different parties, they formed an alliance. And with that alliance, more problems, we could see them and they arise them. Except for people who did not have presence of mind, who go around feeling happy. I must say, life in the army as a second lieutenant, a lieutenant or a captain was good. But if you are happy with yourself, but you saw your people being treated badly. And when I say your people, in Yoruba land, Yorubas outside the barracks, people. But instead, with the crisis, we saw a lot of them running to our barracks for safety. So I gave the instructions that our barracks gate will be open and they'll be allowed to come in. And the more they knew about this, the safer they felt. And they'll try to make it to the barracks, and whenever they got into the barracks, they felt safe. So this was the order of the day at the time when all these things were happening. Now, on the other hand, Major Tukuma Kadnan Zogo, who was my senior at St. John's College, Kaduna, but we knew ourselves, had gone through Sandos before me, and after that we kept in touch, and there was that esprit corps. We felt happy with each other. There was another officer, Chris Anoforo, who also went through St. John's. He was of Zogo's mates. They were mates, yeah, they were classmates and so on. So this went on and on and on. And we were becoming uncomfortable the way politics was going in Nigeria, and especially the western part of Nigeria. At one time, it was termed the Wild West, and it was really wild.
Was it when something like there was wet year, and what was all the wet year stuff? I heard about that.
Well, the wet year stuff came about when it was a slang. People would buy petrol, that's fuel, tie them in cans, and then pour them on vehicles, on houses, in type of property, even on human beings, and set them on fire.
Was it targeted? Were they targeted, or was it just a general? What was the purpose of that?
The purpose of it was that the Akintola group, who had formed at that time what they call the NNA, Nigerian National Alliance, with Sardauna, and it was given the leeway, sort of, to carry on. And when I say leeway, I mean by the federal government, which was controlled by Sardauna from the north. We were all aware of that. And they started killing people in the hundreds of thousands. And it looked as if there was no end in sight. Then some of our young officers, and when I say young officers, majors and captains, started. Actually, it was a talk in town when people talk. They say, "Look, you army people, what are you doing?" Yeah. But you won't tell them you're going to do something. Yeah. We felt it, and it got to a point. We started feeling guilty and ashamed of ourselves to go out in town and be identified as a soldier. They won't do anything, but you had the self-conscience. So this thing went on and on and on, unabated. Now, Major Nwobosi was the first Nigerian to take over and head the military intelligence from the white officer who was leading. Even though he told us that when the British were moving out, they removed a lot of files because they didn't want us to know the type of administration they ran there, which led to a popular saying in Hausa. I don't know if I can use it. Okay. Ba asen, another way to say it, ba gani, banam bature, say bayan tiyansa. For those who understand Hausa, what you understand, but those who don't, it means when a white man, and they meant the British in this context, when the British is in your country and doing whatever type of havoc, you will not know. Okay. It's only after he's left that you start to see what happened today. So Nwobosi was there, and he started gathering his own team and intelligence. In the process, he got to know that Sardauna, apart from a number of other things he was doing, which we felt was none of our business, but as far as it affected us, he was really desperate in trying to conquer Nigeria. And by conquer, it was in the line of Usman dan Fodio to Islamize the whole of the South. And he would say this in the House of Assembly in Kaduna. He would say it at public fora. He didn't care. He was so.
He had a northern agenda.
He had a northern agenda, and because he didn't fear anybody anymore. He was too careless in his utterances. And with us, trying to feel comfortable as officers, because it wasn't easy. School cert, a degree, You go through Sandos or months or weeks, and you come back as a lieutenant, captain, and all that. You feel good. But feeling good was one thing, and seeing your people
being impoverished, killed.
And then some of us with like minds started thinking of a solution to this. Those of us who, because you will not talk to somebody about a coup, for instance, if you don't have at least 90% or thereabout, the certainty that he will agree. Because if the person disagrees,
to leak
to carry on without him, it's a danger. And a lot of the officers will have known that if they say no, that their lives are in danger too. Some may not say no. And we had good examples. But in their minds, they didn't want to go along. But they didn't want to take the chance. They say, okay. So this went on, and we decided to take the bull by the horn. We knew that there were some senior officers who could have done it with greater ease. All you had to do was give orders to your subordinates and they carry it out. For instance, somebody like Ironsi would have been a good choice if he was the type who would do it. But because Ironsi was a problem, and to even tell him, for him to say no.
What do you mean it was a problem? Was he not? He wasn't.
Number one, he wasn't well educated.
To the standards.
To the standards.
Didn't he study abroad like you guys? And he didn't go to Sandhurst?
No, he didn't. He rose from the ranks. And rising from the ranks wasn't really the problem. But in those days, we knew those who rose from the ranks were people who had what you call first school living certificate. No, it wasn't school cert.
It wasn't school cert then?
No. First school living certificate. Then he wasn't enlightened. Another thing is that Ironsi was used to drinking a lot of whiskey. In fact, it became common knowledge. Even in functions, he would down a bottle.
Wow.
And people were clapping for him. We were embarrassed by our own man. The man who was supposed to be an icon and the person you looked up to for leadership behaving that way. But
so some of the younger guys who were exposed felt it was, you saw the killings going on, you felt it was time to do something. To
do something. So we started getting together and planning, one person talking to the other person and all that type of thing. And it eventually ended up with the January 15th coup. Now, talking about January 15th, we did not just come out of the blues and decide January 15th. We were planning these things and taking our time to do the groundwork. When Chukwuma Kedranzobo, through his intelligence network, got reliable information that Sardauna of Sokoto was using Akintola as his base, and then using some top military officers to perpetrate that Islamization.
Yeah. The agenda, the
agenda.
Yeah, pushing the agenda.
Deep in the Quran in the sea. Yeah. When we knew this, we worked very hard to find out the date. And when we got the fact that it was January, it was planned for January 17th.
Okay.
So we had to preempt it.
Okay.
And that was why we rushed our own to 15th,
okay.
2 days before,
okay.
and printed it. It took everybody by surprise.
Yeah.
We were not, I would say, 100% ready for that date, but we had to do it.
Okay.
And another thing that happened, if you cast your mind back, after the coup happened January 15th, Adaka Boro, Isaac Adaka Boro, who was to be part of that Islamization, did his own, he struck.
Okay, he struck it.
In the rivers, hoping that that was their own agenda going on.
Okay.
It was under Iransi that he was napped and all that type of thing. So that was how this thing happened. And unfortunately for us, it did not go as planned it. Because if the coup had succeeded, all these arguments about this happened or this shouldn't have happened wouldn't arise.
Yeah.
Because we knew that we had everybody liked the coup.
It was popular.
Very popular.
Because I remember
there was jubilation, north, south, wherever.
Because I'm going to say something. I remember in the early 80s, there was that sort of feeling when there was a military coup. I remember as a young kid then, where there was this feeling in the air that the military perhaps might do better. You know, I don't know, perhaps was that what was in the air at the time, do you think? Do you think it was a similar sense of, there was a desperation for something different to happen? I'm just interested what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about 1980s.
Yeah, no, I'm saying something similar. When I was a kid, I noticed that little sense of, there was some, but obviously it felt again, it was something that...
They felt at that time.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you that in our own time, not only did they feel, it got to stage, the civilians started getting desperate.
Okay.
Even in beer parlors, where you meet your civilian friends to have a drink, you're Murphy.
Yeah.
People didn't know you, but those who knew you, including your own friends, after a while they say, you army people, how can you be around? And this is
not doing anything yet.
So you come out to chill and feel happy, and somebody is telling you all these things. You've been feeling bad yourself. So that was the situation at the time. I remember when in Kaduna, and in Kaduna we had a lot of houses who go out to drink, and then they are confronted with this type of situation. Before you move any a bit forward, I'd like you to address the notion, because I know perhaps people watching out there looking at it and saying, oh well, it was probably an evil coup, that narrative that's out there. What would you say to people who say that, who transport that across? Well, it's a pity. I sympathize with a lot of people, but because they're not aware of the facts.
Yes.
They feel that way.
Yes.
I cannot tell them, look, you're talking rubbish, or go to hell.
Yeah.
No, that I will not do that. But I know that when we planned the coup, it was just a group of us, and we were talking of thinking and acting Nigeria. And everything we did at that time was in the interest of Nigeria. the composition of the coup at that time, and I believe that because of the restriction or the conditions, especially educational qualification for joining the army or for applying to join the army, at that time being controlled by the British themselves, Nigerians haven't taken over. Okay. Actually, Nigerians, the British were still the GOC, the brigade commander. In fact, you had some sergeants who were British. Okay. So those conditions, the Igbos eventually excelled and became about maybe 65 to 70% of the officers in the army. Yeah. So when you start making any selection, whether for a platoon attack or for company attack or whatever, yeah, there's always that tendency that the officer corps, the Igbos, will be preponderant. Yes. So also the troops, the soldiers that you used, were mainly from the north. That didn't mean anything. Yeah. Now, we had in our groups, apart from Igbos, this is to debunk that claim of Igbos, we had Major Ademoyega, who was Europe. Yes. We had Swantong from the north. Okay. We had Swantong. Okay. Okay. Yeah. We had what's his name? Atombera from the north. Okay. In my own unit, I had Bob Ebwiko, who was from the Delta. Yes. Not just Delta, but Middle Delta at the time. So when people talk about Igbo coup and all that, you have to wonder. Then Ademoyega hinted Kanefajui, who was Yoruba. Kanefajui gave his blessing. Okay. He would not join, but he gave his blessing. He was behind it. These are the ones we know. Yeah. So it boils down to the fact that sometimes you get tired of being asked the same question over and over again. Yeah. But I will not get tired. Yeah. Because the people who are aggrieved, yes, they are aggrieved. Okay. But it's unfortunate. Yes. That was a fact of history. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Chukwudumikazu, I'd like to give you some time to tell us a bit more about this particular area, because I know in your book, The Turning Point, I know you address some issues, yeah? Nigeria, The Turning Point. But from your perspective, what would you say about this notion that it was an Igbo coup?
I'll be very plain and very clear about it. Let me start by saying that if I were a Northerner and I woke up on the morning of the 15th of January and I saw the outcome of the coup in terms of the results, because mostly we wouldn't know your intentions, we don't see what's in your heart. But I'm seeing the outcome of the coup in terms of the deaths or the killings, in terms of the officer corps who were killed, in terms of the leaders who were killed, and also in terms of the preponderance of officers from a particular ethnic group, I would feel concerned. And if the same happened to Igbo people or to Easterners, of which I'm one, yes, and I woke up one morning and I realized that Ojukwu has been killed, yes, Irunsi has been killed, Madibu has been killed, yes, Akbara was killed, the midway premier was killed, I would be very concerned. So I think it's very important for us to understand the concerns of Northerners in terms of what they're seeing.
Yes.
Was the coup an Igbo coup? During my research on my book, I did a lot of inquiries, I asked a lot of questions, I interrogated many documents, and I also spoke to some actors on both sides of the coup equation. And it's evident to me that that coup was not for Igbo people. It was not for the Igbo interest or Igbo agenda. Like the colonel has explained, the preponderance of Igbo officers can be explained by the fact that the Nigerian army at the time, the vast majority of officer corps were Igbo. Secondly, there are also other actors within the coup itself who were not Igbo in any case, who were happy to join in the coup. I understand that obviously it was only one Yoruba officer who was one of the 5 majors, 1 out of 5, but it's still a figure. And also the beneficiaries of the intervention of the coup were actually the Western region, which at that time was aflame.
Yes.
You talked about Operation Wetie and the killings of thousands of people and the suppression of the Yorubas by the NNA alliance.
Yeah.
With the coup, that stopped. When you go to the Middle Belt in Tiveland, which I'm quite familiar with, a lot of killings there, repression of the Tiv, if you like, self-determination, a lot of killings. And therefore, the beneficiaries of the coup were actually, in terms of territories, were actually the Middle Belt area and the West. Prior to the coup, the East was at peace. There was nothing going on in the East. So was the Midwest as well. So all these facts, which are not very apparent, or not often, if you like, interrogated, it's evident the coup was not an Igbo coup. However, if I may just conclude, the way it played out, many of errors, if you like, misfortunes, misconceptions, it did look like an Igbo coup to those of us who are from the north. And I think it's important that this is actually patiently explained to them at any time the question that arises. I always say to Nigerians all the time, if that was you, how would you feel?
Yes, exactly. Yes, thank you very much. And Colonel, I'd like to ask you why you, at the time, your group, deemed it fit to hand it over to the person of Awolowo. Was he, did you see certain leadership qualities in him as a Nigerian, or, he's seen as this, after the war, he's seen as this tribal, mainly for people from the south, we see him as a tribalistic person. So at the time, why did you deem it fit to hand it over to such a person, if you could say, if you see him that way?
Well, Awolowo, before all this, was the premier of Western Nigeria.
Okay.
And we saw, I have to use this expression, the wonders he performed in the West.
Okay.
Free education, you name it.
Yeah.
Health. And the West became a model.
Okay.
So, and remember that while all these things were going on, he got into trouble with the federal government that earned him that imprisonment in Calabar.
Yes.
So Awolowo was nowhere around to have any discussions with us.
Okay.
He did not even know.
Okay. So it wasn't a plot. It wasn't a plot.
It wasn't approach or whatever.
Yeah.
But we felt that if he could do that in the West, he didn't need too much prodding to do this, replicate it in
all over Nigeria.
And that was what we had in mind.
Okay. And I was going to ask another question we always ask again is, you've answered a bit of it, which is to do with when the leaders from the north and the south were, taken out. I don't want to use the strong words. What explanation do you give to those in the southeast for not being taken out? If I can Is there any clear explanation for that?
Well, I thought you heard it earlier, but let me go through it again. There were problems in the West.
Okay.
And the center of that problem was, or the instigator
was in the West.
Was in the West.
Okay.
But the instigator was
Southern. No.
The West was at peace.
Okay.
Quite peaceful.
Yeah.
And you don't go to an area.
What do you mean? The East? The East, you mean?
Sorry, did I say?
Well, you said the West. Yeah,
sorry,
East.
The East.
Yeah.
You don't give medicine
to
somebody
who's healthy. Yeah,
when there are so many sick people who need it somewhere else.
True.
And that was a simple analysis of what happened.
Okay. We're gonna go on a quick break now, and when we return, Colonel is going to tell us a bit about the person of Nzogu. I know most Nigerians will never really get to. We've heard historical snippets of him, but maybe he'll tell us a bit of experience with him, and then we're going to hear from Mr. Chudume a bit more about his, outlook on the 1966 coup. We'll see you soon.
Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what I say. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Fighting under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of the conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer. I don't know that it is there. That's what you're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of
Chukwudum Ikazo. Thanks for staying with us. Before we went on the break, I talked about we'll have to discuss, maybe we would like you to enlighten us about Major Nzogu at the time. Just tell us a bit of experience with him, because he's a historical figure. You only see snippets of him on YouTube, and where he was making one speech or so. There's never anything, you just see this handsome man that made a few comments and here and there. But we want to know from your experience, what was he like? Who was he?
Chukwuma. He was Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu. And the name Kaduna came from Kaduna, where he was born.
Okay.
And he spoke fluent Hausa, as well as good English. We went to St. John's College, Kaduna, together.
Okay.
That was where we met the first time. He was my senior. And there in the college, one thing stood out about him. He had his classmates and friends, but he was more at home. Let me put it, he was always at home with people who were junior to him.
Okay. Unlike
the usual thing in secondary schools. Well, second years, you fag the junior ones. Even after then, when the junior comes to you, yes, what do you want? I don't have the time now.
Yeah.
But Nzogu will have the time for you. Nzogu was not a known footballer. we all play games and all that. But instead, Nzogu was, in fact, in athletics, we were doing all sorts of events. But Nzogu will come and run the track so many times over.
Wow. So he was athletic.
He was athletic. But he wasn't in there for competition and all that. He was nice. At least we saw him that way. After he left college, the next time we met was he joined the army, and I was still in college. I came out, went into civil service for 1 year and joined the army. We met again in the army. And I remember after my years at Sandhurst, from there we were posted on paper to go into the Nigerian artillery. And because we were still in the UK, they arranged for us to go for artillery training in Salisbury Plain. And when we were there, because I was still in touch with Nzogu, one day I was in the TV room watching TV. They called me and said I had a phone call. You know, they had this mobile phone field. It was London. I got it was in Local. He was so happy. He brought me and we talked. And then he told me he had come there to the School of Intelligence to do some training. We talked for quite a while. And then I told him about it. So eventually we met back in Nigeria. And I found him very, very interesting. He had his classmate, Chris Anaforo, who of course was a major too. But Chris Anaforo, you know, I liked him, I dealt with him, but he was not as warm and as welcoming as Nzogu. That was a big difference. So Nzogu will always listen to junior officers. And in fact, I remember that the day or the night I just left the officers' mess back to the accommodation where I shared with Nzogu and one other. I was sitting there when a car drove in. I didn't know who the hell it was. Eventually, the person came in, and it was Emmanuel, who was stationed in Lagos, 2 Brigade. So I was surprised. I greeted him, gave him person. He said he had just come from Lagos, and he'll be going back to Lagos that night. Well, that he would like to see Nzogu. So that he was happy he met me. I said, okay, hold on, let me call him. I left and went back to the mess, and they told me they saw Nzogu with Major Udaj. Just leave, and the direction they went, I guessed the next place was to check at Udaj's house. All of us were living with him. So I got there and said, here you are. The reason I say this is because of his closeness with junior officers. I said, here you are. That I went to look in the mess that there are some junior officers from the Air Force, the new Air Force Civil, that they were in the house, they wanted to see you. He said, he told Dad, please, you know. So both of us left Dad's place. It was on our way back to our house.
Yeah.
I told him no. I had to use that line to confuse him that it was Major Emma Ifajima.
Okay.
And the one about what you and I have been talking about for quite some time.
Yeah.
What was it? It was about the situation in the Nigeria.
Yeah.
So,
but before you continue, I was going to ask you something. What was the selection process for going into Sandhurst? You know, like Sandhurst seems to be an elitist kind of institution. Is it still the same today? And but then, how was the selection done?
I wouldn't know about today, but at that time, the first thing is in the Nigerian context, because they give Nigeria, they give different Commonwealth countries, or even their colonies, they have given them their quota.
Okay.
So for my own intake, Nigeria had only four
slots. Was it then? Okay.
On my own. Then in Nigeria, in my own set, we were, I will imagine, around 40-something cadets who made it to Nigerian Military Training College, which is now the Defense Academy. The first 6 months, you do all sorts of training, and at the end, you go through your final selection board. So, to get about 35 that passed through that course was by itself a real task.
Yeah.
Then, from that 35 to get 4 for Sanders slot, it was anybody's guess.
Yeah.
So
you have to be the best, really.
So if you're lucky,
if
you're lucky to be in that slot, you thank yourself. And I'll tell you, there was this drama when they pasted the results at the end of our 6 months. They pasted it, and as soon as we knew about it, everybody dashed to the board. Of course, when you got there, there'll be some cadets who were there before you, and you couldn't see far, and everybody was trying to find out. One is to find out if you made it. It's not really where you're going.
It's about if you made it.
To make it. So I kept looking, and he looked at certain names. They looked like their name, only to find out no, it's not you. Eventually, you see the thing, and then you look against it. You see RMAS.
What does that mean?
Which was magical. Royal Military Academy.
Okay.
And look, I didn't know whether it was true or not. I felt this could have been a dream. I looked at it again, and again, and again. Eventually I said, Jim Emmanuel.
Yes. Yes.
It's not only that God made me pass that course, which wasn't easy, but got me into Sanders slot, which was another
task in itself. Wonderful.
Then the rest will have to go to months. Massacre, which was a short.
And you know, since you're here with us, I can't have a discussion without asking you about your interaction with the Dim himself, or the Megojuku. I know he wasn't part of the 66 coup per se, but he was an Igbo leader, one of the military icons. You know,
that's right.
How did you know him? And you know, presumably you were friends with him as well.
Eventually, but at first he was, you know, he looked so distant. But I first knew about him while we were in Kaduna. Because St. John's College, there was John Bigger. I don't know if you know about it, you heard of Bigger. Bigger was his half brother. and he was my senior by 2 years in college.
Yeah.
And the fact that Bigger was there, and I knew he was answering Bigger, but we knew that to Ojukwu. So eventually, the first time I met him, he was posted to one of the units in Kaduna while we were still in college.
Okay.
And of course, we continued hearing stories. And then there were very, very few Nigerian officers in the army at the time.
Yeah.
They were mainly British.
Okay.
So eventually, I met Ojukwu, and it wasn't, how will I put it? It wasn't a formal meeting. When I met him formally, eventually, was, I will even say, when we started, well, long after the coup and our detention, and then we came back.
Well, after being exiled, you know, because of what of time, I was going to ask you about the time away, and
okay.
But we're going to cut it across like
okay.
this is the
okay. No, I'm trying to pinpoint the particular time I met him. But eventually, I started working in his headquarters.
Okay. That was when he returned from. Was that in the 80s or?
No, that was during the BIAFRA war.
Okay, during the war. Okay, sorry.
During the BIAFRA war.
Okay.
And I was put in there because I had my injury.
Okay.
Which nearly ruined my spinal cord. So after hospitalization, I was taken there. I couldn't go back to the field immediately. So I was taken to. Actually, I went in my car with my driver to the defense headquarters because I didn't go straight to Ojukwu. It wasn't easy. I went to General Effiong, who was the chief of defense staff, and I reported fit and ready for duty. So he was happy to see me too. So he said, okay, tidied his desk, took me to defense operations, where Ojukwu was part of his building. So I met Ojukwu, I believe formally there, formally. So he was happy to see me. He knew about me, I knew about him. So he posted me to the defense office. That's just outside his own office. And there was Colonel Anwuna, Pat Anwuna, who was the chief of operations at the time. He said I would be understood in Pat Anwuna and help him out too. So got there. And I think Anwuna saw me and got happy that he had somebody to relieve him. Most of the time, Ojukwu would call because I had a hotline. He would call and I would pick the phone. Your Excellency, say, Pat. I say, no, sir, Nwobosi. That type of thing. So eventually, Pat Anwuna was on his way out. So I would imagine after some months, Anwuna was posted to Defense Headquarters, that's General Effiong's headquarters, where they made him Principal Staff Officer, Logistics, down in there. And that was how I got fully into operations.
And moving forward because of time, really, when most of the Nigerian military men from the old era, with this part, and most of them end up joining the military garb and going into politics. Did you ever go into politics, or you didn't feel it was necessary? Or why haven't you gone that way?
Well, I'll tell you, I've never liked party politics. It's not that I didn't hate it. Even when Ojukwu was doing politics, I was his aide, helping him out. But what they were doing never took my fancy.
Is it this system? Is it because of the system of government? You know, like then it was the regional system, and now we have the federal system. Well, what do you this current setup and the constitution and per se? What's your opinion on how it is, how Nigeria is constituted today?
I'll tell you this: when we had the regions, every region developed at this pace, and that was why Awolowo was able to develop at this pace, much to the envy of the other regions. Zik handed over the East Opera, and the Opera started its own way to the admiration of a lot of people.
True.
So, with all those setups, when they talk about what do you call it? What's the word for it? Restructuring. I believe that's what they are heading for. Because if you restructure and people develop, if you're doing well, you are doing well for yourself.
True.
In fact, there was somebody who suggested at one time. He said, since that was during the war, it was a joke. He said, all this shelling and bombing we're having is because of the oil. If it's for this oil, let them call Gowon. No, Ojukwu and Gowon should settle. Ojukwu give Gowon the oil, but let us
Okay, and Mr. Chudube, I'd like to ask you to give us an insight into your own opinion on the system of governance today, the federal system, and from your historical, background, the regional system, and like maybe in a way, enlighten Nigerians as the better way forward.
I don't think I have the answer to the better way forward. If you ask me, I don't think I can give you any pointers to the way forward, but I can say this very quickly. What you now in Nigeria is a federal government in name, not in practice. Prior to 1966, we had a federal government. Of course, we have regions, but very much our regions are comparable to states. These are the units within the country itself. What we had before the war was the federal government, because each region itself controlled its own resources, controlled its own revenue, and then submitted a little bit of the revenue to the federal for federal costs. What we have now, the federal government controls the resources in your state. That is, if those resources are oil, not gold, as you find as I state today. You follow what I'm saying? Now, the federal government, since 1968 or 69, revenue allocation decree. Prior to that, it was 100% of what you find in your region. If you find oil there, if you produce coal, if you produce cocoa, granules, that's yours. It's in your land. But during the war, they reversed it by decree. Decree, of course, military decree, which is to say, whoever is in power by within the gun can decide what he wants. Turned it around. When the war ended, they carried on. When we had the new constitution, when we had the new federal government, when we had a democracy of sorts, they carried on. So there's been opportunities to change. Yes. What we have now is not really a federal government, federal system in reality. Nwobosi, I'd like you to talk to Nigerians and tell Nigerians about, your sector of Genorian. We're opportunity to still have you here with us. I mean, sometimes I look at some of the documentaries of old and I see, and I wish they spoke to us, So I'd like you to speak to Nigerians, the cameras over there, speak to Nigerians and tell us how we should live, as a people, and
how to make Nigeria move forward?
Or the hard though.
Difficult to say this.
Fellow Nigerians, I want to talk to you and give you a piece of advice, and this is from my heart.
You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that the Nigerian emblem, the army emblem of Nigeria, is the motto of Ottoman and Fodio that he used to conquer Hausa people. You don't know that it is there. That's what they're using. You're fighting under the banner of your conquerors. Those you are serving under their flag, one Nigeria and the Arabic inscription, or should I say the motto of Ottoman and Fodio, to tell you how foolish Nigerians are. You don't know that
We have decided for a very long time that peace somehow will be in Anambra State. Those who participated in killing these children today will never live to tell the story. And for this reason, from the 4th of December 2023 to the 6th of December 2023, Anambra State, specifically from the 4th of December 2023, there will be a total shutdown of the entire Anambra and government offices from 6 to 6, including market. This is to make sure that we are going to create a room for the Biafra Liberation Army, the Biafra resistance fighters, to hunt down the killers of Biafra women, children, and men. On a Sunday morning, when every Biafrans were getting ready for church service, they invaded the community, butchered and killed. Until this moment, no Nigerian representative within Biafra territory has condemned the barbarism and heinous crime against Biafra people. Decided for a very long time that somehow will be in Anambra State. Those who participated in killing these children today will never live to tell the story. And for this reason, from the 4th of December 2023 to the 6th of December 2023, Anambra State, specifically from the 4th of December 2023, there will be a total shutdown of the entire Anambra and government offices from 6 to 6, including market. This is to make sure that we are going to create a room for the Biafra Liberation Army, the Biafra resistance fighters to hunt down the killers of Biafra women, children, and men. On a Sunday morning, when every Biafrans were getting ready for church service, they invaded the community, butchered and killed. Until this moment, no Nigeria representative within Biafra territory has condemned the barbarism and the heinous crime against Biafra people.
The governor of the state himself obeys the sit at home on Monday, and then the civil servants that work in government house obey the sit at home, and government shut down on Mondays. It means the real governor of Southeast is Simon Ekpa, ruling the Southeast from Finland.
Land of the rising sun, we love and cherish, beloved homeland of our brave heroes. We must defend our lives, or we shall perish. We shall protect our hearts from all our foes. But if the prize is death for all we hold dear, then let us die without a shred of fear. Hell to Biafra, consecrated nation, oh fatherland, peace be our solemn pledge. Defending thee shall be our dedication. Spilling our blood will count our privilege. The waving standard which emboldened thee free shall always be our flag of liberty. We shall